are you? I'm good.
Love your dress.
Thank you.
Awesome. Love the outfit.
Thank you.
You ready for some lunch?
I am ready.
All right, cool. Got a lunch date.
Me? Thank you. My favorite car.
I love this car so much. You comfy?
Very.
Good? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. How's the house? It's always stunning.
It is. Thank you so much. The drought is breaking my heart though.
Really? Oh man.
All my plants are dying.
So Melanie, thank you so very much for doing this and being with us in the new discovery.
It's a pleasure.
What are your first impressions of the actual car? Because when we got in, you were like, wow.
Well, this is my favorite car. I used to have the Land Rover, the LR4.
Beautiful, the nice boxy
Yes,
shape.
but that was a little more boxy. This one is very sleek and refined. So I do love it.
And you said dream car. This is your dream car. Okay, that's good to know. So, walk me through a day in the life of Melanie.
Day in the life of Melanie. Usually, it depends on if I'm working on a project or not.
Okay.
If I'm doing a gardening project, then my day starts with going through my ideas, working out. If I'm just beginning the project, I go on the road to buy my soil, my plants, which usually takes me all over Kingston. And then I get my staff together. We usually meet at my house in the mornings. We get our water together, everything we're going to need for the day, and then we head out to the site.
Okay.
If I'm writing, then usually pretty much I stay home.
Okay.
My writing I usually like to sit in the garden or, on my patio, and I do a lot of my writing there. So it just depends on what I'm working on at the time.
Are there any techniques that you use in the mornings to get those creative juices flowing when you're writing?
Usually I start the day when everybody else is sleeping and the house is quiet. I start with a very reflective time. I do a lot of Bible reading.
Okay.
I do a lot of self-help reading. I like to follow other writers on Twitter, like Chimamanda Adichie. I follow her. I get a lot of inspiration from them. So usually at that time of morning, it's just a matter of zoning in and gathering my thoughts and just getting to a place where I'm at peace.
I've always been fascinated with writers because I think it's a very difficult skill. It's not easy, and I think every writer draws from so many different types of motivations and inspirations. Our writers are extremely interesting to me.
Well, I really believe that everybody's a writer.
Oh, you do?
I believe that once you're human and you live life and you can write about it, you're a writer. A lot of people believe that the editing and the technique is what makes a good writer. That's not. The editor does that part.
Okay.
What I like to do is write non-stop.
Okay.
I don't worry about grammar. I don't worry about if the story is making sense. I just write. I just let it flow. And then afterwards, after I started to put things on paper, the story actually starts to take a life of its own and take over.
Okay.
So in my first book, when I started to write it, I didn't even know what I was writing. I didn't know what the story was going to be about. I didn't know anything.
You just were like, this is what I'm feeling?
Yes,
and it just...
I knew I loved Jamaica. I wanted to write a story about Jamaica, a little girl who lived in Jamaica. And all of a sudden, the story just started to take shape. And the main character started to control the story.
Okay.
So I didn't think of myself as a writer when I started to write. Okay. I just wanted some outlet to express myself and to express my creativity.
That's really interesting. I never knew that. I'm no writer, no artist, but I'm going to paint you a little picture, right? You're in your dream car. Could be this car, actually. You're on a highway. The coast is on your right. The sunset coming down. It's that magical time of day. What song are you listening to?
Hallelujah by
Hallelujah?
Alexandra Burke.
Okay.
I love that song.
Could you give us a little karaoke, carpool carry?
Absolutely not.
Oh,
The
man.
car, the glass would break.
I tried.
Not those notes.
If you could make one traffic law, what would that traffic law be?
I would definitely have a bike lane for cyclists and motorbike riders. I find that almost every single accident right now, first of all, you hear about one dying almost every day.
Yeah, it's tragic.
It's unbelievable how, and the other day I had an accident with one. I was turning, he didn't see my indicator because he was right beside my car and he ran straight into me. And the young guy was so confused because as far as he was concerned, he had the right to turn. He didn't understand the road law, the law of the road at all. Totally and completely confused as to what happened. I really believe that we need a bike lane for them, or we need some sort of education where they're not just given because they can ride on a learner's license, right?
Yes, that's very true.
Where they
I think that's kind of dangerous.
It's unbelievable. They don't know the law, and they're throwing away their lives and putting other people's lives at risk.
So what's your best car memory?
My best car memory is being a little girl in Montego Bay on my grandparents' farm, and my grandfather had a Land Rover. And we would drive with him in the back in the mornings before the sun was up to go and milk the cows. And then they would put the milk in these...
farm girl?
Yes.
Okay, country girl.
They would put the milk in these huge metal canisters and pile them into the back. My connection with a car is about family, hard work, industry, Jamaica, early morning time. Those are the memories. I think that's why I have a connection to this car, because of what it represents to me. Yes, yes.
And I can see a theme here, so this early morning,
Very important to me. Yeah, early morning. As a matter of fact, the first book I wrote, Dew Angels, is about the early morning and the dew.
If you could interview one writer, past or present, who would that writer be and why?
I would interview Chimamanda Adichie, who I told you was my favorite writer. I fell in love with her, not because, I love her books. I read her books and I love her writing. But she did a talk, I think it was at a graduation, a commencement talk once about the single story.
Okay.
And it encompassed for me everything that a writer is and does. It's breaking open stories, giving insight to behind the scenes of lives that people would never understand if not for books.
So I kind of like the theme that you kind of bring up with that. We just drove the discovery and you're talking about a writer that inspires you, that explores and discovers past the single story. What's the one thing that you've discovered about yourself through writing?
How brave I am. I don't know if you know, but the book I wrote has a lot to do with racism in Jamaica.
Yeah.
It's not something we like to talk about. It's not something we like to admit to. But I decided that I was going to write it. It's my experience. I've seen it happen. I got cussed for writing it.
Really?
I was invited to a book club once by a woman who, at the end of it, asked me, why don't you choose something nice to write about? Why would you choose something so harsh to write about? I decided that if I had something to say, I was going to say it, despite what people would think.
I'm sure you'll be even more braver. That could push you towards, the best-selling book, of course. I'm sure it'll come. I'm sure it'll come. Would you consider your writing to be viewed as risky? Do you always take risks in your writing?
I wouldn't say I'm always risky. The book Dew Angels was risky, but my writing tends to more highlight our culture.
Okay.
The good and the bad of it.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
So you zoom out and then you can zoom in and kind of highlight various things. Okay.
Exactly, yeah.
Could you teach me something that I don't know in the next 5 minutes?
When we went to South Africa, we noticed that the giraffe would come to a set of trees and start to eat.
Yeah.
And then after a while, they would move on far away from that set of trees to another set, walk miles and go and eat somewhere else. So I asked the ranger, why don't they just eat in one place? And he says that trees actually speak to each other. and communicate with each other through the soil, like an internet system. The fungi in the soil acts like their internet.
Wow.
So they're being eaten, and they send a message to all the other trees, somebody's eating us. And the trees change their leaves to a bitter taste so that they stop eating and go somewhere else.
Okay.
So it's a way of protecting themselves.
You know, I've lived in Africa my whole life and I never knew that. So keeping with the theme of animals, if you could be an animal, what would you be?
I'd be a bird for two reasons. I love home, so I love nesting.
Okay.
I think I would love to build my nest because I love to build my home. Thank you. Thank you. And I love travel.
Thank you.
So I would fly everywhere.
If I was to give you an elephant and you couldn't give away or sell the elephant, what would you do with the elephant?
I would use an elephant to rehabilitate children in Jamaica who have been exposed to violence and abuse. There's communication that children are not capable of giving. They can't find the words. So I feel that animals do help to bring that communication unspoken that we can't understand. I would probably set up somewhere where they could just come and play and just be children before going back to have to face what they do face.
I came across this fantastic article and there was this awesome quote in there about the fact that when you do your decorating, you just throw out the rules. You don't like following rules. Is that a mantra that you take with everything that you do?
You know what I learned in growing up? No matter what you do in life, no matter how you think you're doing good, no matter how you think you're doing something awesome, somebody is going to have a problem with it. You can't please everybody. As I said before, I wrote a book that I had to be brave to write about the issues that I wanted to address.
How did you deal with, the criticisms that were aimed at you and maybe the unpolite things that people would say to you? What techniques did you use to kind of overcome that and just move on?
I'm not going to lie when I tell you that sometimes, your creative work is your baby.
True, yeah.
It's like somebody telling you that your child is ugly. You're offended, it hurts. So I'm not going to tell you that sometimes the negative things that are said don't hurt you. But what's good about negative things is that if you can be a constructive person for yourself and to think about what that person is saying and to look if there is some essence of truth in it and to use it so that the next time you can use it constructively and do better, then fine. If you can look at it and think of it as just something is somebody saying to be cruel or just to have a negative thing to say, then after a while, those things you realize are not important. So you learn to balance, you learn to figure out what really and truly is constructive and what really and truly is not.
Okay.
And as you grow, you learn to just trash the things that don't help you.
What is your definition of happiness?
I think happiness is, and I have learned it as I've grown older, the freedom of not caring what anybody else thinks is, I cannot describe that freedom. You come to a point where you realize that the family and the core people around you, as long as they're okay, as long as they're fine, as long as you have that base, that sanctuary, to me that's what happiness is. My family brings me joy.
What's the best book you've read so far this year?
Good Grief by Lolly Winston. It's about a woman who lost her husband to cancer and just her life in learning how to cope and live on her own. It's very heartbreaking and sad, but her style of writing is hilarious. And what it does is that it makes you realize that life goes on, despite the worst circumstances in the world.
If you were to write an autobiography, what would the title of your autobiography be?
Why wine when there's wine?
I like that. Why wine when there's wine?
Yes.
Perfect. If you could describe your life's journey up to this point in one word, what would that word be?
It's one word, but it's joined together. Roller coaster.
Perfect.
Definitely.
And why would you choose roller coaster?
Because sometimes I feel like I'm hanging on for dear life. It's been up and down, but always exciting.
Okay. I love that. That's awesome. What's next for Melanie Schwapp?
I just finished my second book. So I've sent it out to 3 publishers. So I'm waiting. It's a waiting game now to see who is interested in publishing it. I self-published my first book.
Okay.
So this is the first time I'm going to now put myself out there to be picked up by a publisher.
Okay. Could you give us a little insight into the book?
This book, again, is about a woman who is married in an abusive relationship and how she finds herself to be able to step out of it. So,
okay,
another book that goes into something that might not be what people want to talk about, but I find that's something we hide a lot in Jamaica too.
I think it's such a great time now, you know, like to touch on these topics and actually give them the debate and the actual air and the oxygen that they need for us to move forward as a society. When it's all said and done, how would you like to be remembered?
As light. Somebody who brought light instead of darkness. You know, to inspire. No matter how small, no matter how many lives, just to be an inspiration and to be someone who people feel that they can approach, you know, with no judgment at all.
Perfect.
So yeah, light.
What would your advice be for the next generation, your children, your children's children?
I tell my children every day, there's nothing in life, no matter how high you are, no matter how low you are, there's nothing in life that can compare to having that spiritual relationship with God. And just knowing that that's a force that no matter what, it's always there, it's constant in your life. So I tell my children that every day, that and family. Yeah. And I think that soft, steady, secure place that you can go back to and refresh is very, very important in life, no matter what age you are.
Amen to that. It's very true. Thank you so very much for sharing.
It was a pleasure.
Some fantastic answers and just probably one of the most interesting conversations I've had over the last 10 years, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a lovely day, especially the wine.
You want another one?
No,
okay,
no, midday, no, I'm fine.